Can we just go old school?
They got it up. It's just like,
Okay.
our meeting should only go long.
Okay.
It's pretty expensive.
Oh, it's never recorded.
Has it been recording?
Everybody's like texting in. You guys are live.
We start this now and,
It's funny.
Are we good?
He's not picking his nose.
No.
All right, go ahead and call the meeting to order at 12:06. Awesome. So open with an invocation and pledge of allegiance. Don't mind doing the invocation. Okay,
He's always got a.
I thank you.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, seeking your guidance and wisdom in our work. As we gather to make our decisions on behalf of this community, we ask that you grant us discernment to act in a manner that is fair, just, and in alignment with your will. Help us to be faithful stewards of the responsibilities entrusted to us. Give us the strength to listen with open hearts and the courage to do what's right for all, especially those who rely on our leadership and care. May our actions reflect the love and compassion you have shown us, and we serve our constituents with humility, grace, and integrity. We ask your blessings upon this meeting that we may honor you and benefit those we are called to serve. In your name we pray.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
That one always trips me up.
That's an odd cadence.
All right, number 3, receive comments from the public. Public? Okay.
No, I'm on the agenda.
Yep. Consider an act on requests for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Okie dokie, thank you. And consent agenda, is there anything that we need to remove before approving the consent agenda 5 through 9? We're all good?
I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Can I get a second? Thank you. And all, sorry, can bring that to vote, yay, nay, or abstain. To approve the consent agenda 5 through 9.
Yay.
Yay, yay, thank you. All right, regular agenda. Excuse me, sorry. Number 10, receive regular monthly SGRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach.
So just a few things to highlight. First is financials are not in the packet. They are over here. So if you do not have one in front of you, let me know and I can pass them out. You'll notice on the financials that based on year-end close for us, fiscal year-end close, which is August, September is the first month of the fiscal year. Not everything was paid nor accrued for, so it's not a very accurate statement. For example, it shows GRP was not paid, but they were. So it gives about almost a $2 million swing. Next item is on the projects, beginning on page 18. We've changed the format again, try to make it a little bit more user-friendly. If you see something, or more importantly, if you see something that's missing, let us know. We can definitely add more detail in there. Want to make sure we give you the most information we can when it comes to these items. Under funding source, we've also called out the excess fund projects. So if anybody wants to track those 3 projects that were approved earlier this year, y'all can track those and see how they're going. The last thing I have is not in your packet, but it's the GRP had a water main break at Research Forest and Grogan's Mill. It was yesterday, day before, 2 days ago. It happened. They started fixing it yesterday. Basically, it was going to be a quicker fix, but then looking at it, the current break is just about 60 foot past the previous break in 2022. And so rather than leave a potentially bad piece of PVC in the ground, we're going to replace that entire collectively 100-foot pipe. So it's going to take a few more days. Looking to button it up by Friday, put everybody back in service Monday, maybe Tuesday. So intersection there's going to be construction for a few more days, but we still have our wells to rely on. Quick update, but I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
No, I don't have anything.
All right. And move on to number 10, review draft water reclamation facility number 1 decision matrix.
All right, in your packet, you're gonna see a couple different documents. 2 pages that look like this.
Yeah.
And then, the last page of that, set of documents, it looks like this. It's, called the comparison, worksheet. If you recall, a few months ago, it was decided that there'd be a third-party engineer that would evaluate the 4 options for the wastewater treatment plant. That engineer is Carollo Engineers. They are also required to, or asked to, provide a decision matrix, that's this, with the intention that this could be utilized to help make a selection of whatever the one of the 4 options eventually when that evaluation is complete next year. That was due early November, so we're presenting it here today. The engineer made a presentation to the trustees last week. A copy is here. I think I see some of you all have it, or maybe everybody. That's the PowerPoint that was presented last week. Coming out of the trustee meeting, there was a number of questions and comments related to, so what you have here on these, in this document is, they've identified 7 different kind of parent criteria, 7 of them. And then within those 7, there's some sub-criteria that they're defined on these sheets, in the box over on the right. There were some questions about just different specifics within those sub-criteria and how it was defined. And so what we agreed on was that we'd ask all the trustees and now all the MUDs to go through this, review it, and send me any comments, questions you may have on the criteria and sub-criteria, that piece of it. Once we get that, those comments to the engineer, and then they've had a chance to revise and refine this, what we'll be asking from all the MUDs is to fill out one of these forms, which is essentially the paired comparison worksheet that they've developed. And really what this is asking the reader or the one filling it out, what do you value more? And you kind of go through, it's either one or the other, and you kind of go down. And these criteria that they're asking that preference on aligns with the criteria and sub-criteria on these sheets. So we will need one of these filled out for each MUD in January to be able to give to the consultants so they can kind of finish and button up the matrix matrix from January until when they're done with the evaluation of the 4 alternatives. Some of the MUDs have so far kind of done it a couple different ways. Either have one individual do it and work with the MUD, work with the rest of the directors, or have every director fill one out. And then a couple MUDs have said, well, maybe we just have a workshop and we do it together. So that's kind of the 3.
The workshop would be subjected to the open meetings.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, we'd have to do it officially.
Yeah, it would be official meeting. We could do it where that's the only item. We don't have all the other items. Some MUDs have decided not to have a December meeting. And those that want to do kind of the workshop all together, they've kind of put that in place of their regular December meeting and just having a 1-item agenda item. So
I like that idea.
I do too. So we have a young, I guess, a mostly new board here. So I think it would be good for us to.
Well, I would
Schedule
agree, but none of us on this board have done this. Even myself, when we had Freeze and Nichols, I was a stakeholder for the MUD, but this had already been decided, I don't know, 6 or 9 months or a year before I came on. So none of us have been through one of these. It's very similar to the one that Priest and Nichols did. I mean, obviously there's little differences, but it's a similar weighting process. So, yeah, I think it'd be great to just do it together as a,
Yeah, I don't want to do it alone. I think we'd be spinning
Yeah.
wheels. When you need feedback though on
By the end of this month.
that's what I was gonna say. That can't wait till December. That's gotta be.
Correct. Need feedback on the criteria, sub-criteria by the end of this month. Then ideally, the consultant gets the input. And then in that roughly first 2 weeks of December, prior to the workshop meetings, they can get the platform, refined.
So Eric, that could be anything from asking clarifying questions about the matrix here, or suggesting changes, or I think the weighting should be different, anything, right?
Sure.
Okay.
We have the remainder of this week or Thanksgiving week.
to actually knock this out.
No.
You just decide, well, you just mentioned you were gonna do that in December.
That's December. Feedback on the 2-page 7 bulleted
Yeah.
sub-bullet
Category, subcategory.
before the end of the month.
Got it. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page on what we're referring to as December and before December. So, I mean, as far as the categories, I've been through this. I'm fine with the categories the way they are. And then, yeah, if we can do a workshop on this, it'll be great.
Yeah, I did read that. I didn't have any sense of exactly why, what the context was, but I didn't see anything glaring about that. But I'll go back through it.
Yeah, if you do,
Yeah.
send them to me and I'll get those sent off to them and then, like I said, they'll refine it and then ideally we'll have the refined ones for the workshop.
Okay. Yeah, because they had mentioned in the meeting that they needed it by January and then maybe they'll have results by the summertime ballpark.
Yes,
Roughly.
they're expecting to have the evaluation of the four alternatives.
May-ish.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
So, and then once that's complete, they'll be able to put those into this matrix once that's done.
Yeah. One thing they did mention in the trustees meeting on the third page or fourth page was the bottom 2 bullet points should be noted for new site and new land, potentially.
Alternatives overview.
Yeah, no, the fourth page. I apologize. I was working on that page. Yeah, fourth page.
Yeah, I'm just referring to the content on the page and that's the page number. So yeah.
Yeah, so the bottom 2 refer to new site, like a new facility, and then using the new land or the adjacent land. They just want to make sure that was very clear. And then the actual weightings as they stand now was just their standard kind of operating procedure that they normally use as an engineering firm. And there's a piece in the flow chart where it's the decision model. That's a specific decision model that they use called Criterion decision model. It's just a software that they use. There's a bunch of them out there, but that's just the one that firm uses. And they made it clear that whenever we rank, we do need to use whole numbers, no fractions, decimal points, just whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. But that was pretty much it. I mean, it's just statistics. There's one more. Oh, yeah, that was it. Was all I had on that piece. So
When do we make a motion, or how do we set the agenda? Is that later on for setting December as a workshop?
I think that would be at the end where we add a line item
Yeah,
or
I just
later in the meeting.
I just need to know your intention and then I can get it set up. That's,
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty unanimous, not officially, but unofficially that we'd like to do that. Yeah. For decisions for December. Cool. All right, so nothing to approve there. Those are just a discussion. Consider and direct trust, number 12, consider and direct trustee to vote on appointment of vacant WA seat on the SGRA GRP Review Committee. Cool. And I believe we have two people to talk to us today.
Yeah, I want to give some background a little bit first for the board. So the GRP has an advisory council or a committee that contemplates various things and gives recommendations to the SJRA board for approvals. The WWA has a seat on that committee. Since it's, I think, inception, the deputy GM, Mike Mooney, who is retiring, has sat in that seat. He put in his resignation to that seat, which is a requirement in order to vacate. He did that a couple weeks ago at their meeting. The GRP manager, Chris, made me aware that that had officially happened. And thus, the seat is open and the trustees need to make a vote on who to appoint into that seat. At the trustee meeting last week, the trustees decided to push the discussion down to the mid level to talk about it and then give guidance to your trustee to make a vote on who that might be. I had initially recommended our new deputy GM to fill that seat, Kim Wright, who you haven't met yet or is about to. She started a couple weeks ago. And then Brad Hauk from Mud 7 had expressed interest as well as for consideration. So what we thought we would do is have them both come and talk to you a little bit about themselves. Their bios are in your packet. And then I think they're happy to speak to you on their behalf if you'd like.
Great.
So fantastic to meet and learn more about them, but then ultimately the next trustee in December, they'll vote.
Yeah, right.
Exactly correct.
Fair enough.
Is it allowed to be discussed, like who made the motion in the trustees meeting and like why we did that, or is that allowed?
Appropriate or not?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Yeah. So that topic came up and I didn't really know either person well enough to make a decision. So I just asked to table it so we could discuss it as a group and then the board went for it so that everyone could listen and make a educated decision.
Yeah.
So let's go for it and see what everyone has to say.
Keep going.
No. Good. So you do have a summary in your packet, and I would like to take advantage of the opportunity to just tell you a little bit more about me and philosophy on the GRP and answer any questions that you might have. As we know, the GRP was planned and that surface water treatment plant is constructed as a solution for large volume groundwater users to achieve compliance with local rules and regulations that were in place at the time. Although there are currently no rules and regs in place, the existing GRP contract signed by converted and non-converted participants remains in place. There is a responsibility of the GRP Review Committee members to advise in a manner that considers the needs that exist for today and for in the future, along with consideration of the costs associated with meeting those needs. As a representative of the GRP Review Committee, I recognize the need to make available and provide the needed resources such as affordable clean drinking water and other utilities for this fast-growing area, while also making decisions, this is important, that protect our aquifers today and in the future. There may be limitations within the existing GRP contract with adding new participants, and no rules and regulations currently in place to drive the need or demand for surface water. However, remaining vigilant to think outside the box collaboratively and cohesively to promote efficiency and continuous increased utilization of the surface water treatment plant needs to occur. I am technical minded. My knowledge, background, and experiences are diverse. I understand projects, budgets, asset management, operations, and maintenance. One must be engaged in the details when required and supported by knowledgeable resources and staff. Relationships and communications are key to making things possible. I have successfully planned for and managed multi-million-dollar assets, budgets, and capital projects in multiple roles.
I've collaborated significantly to achieve operational successes and to achieve defined goals. This has been possible by not knowing all the answers, but through my understanding and experiences, collaboration, and accurate data gathering for use in making informed recommendations and decisions. I could not have done it without diversified and collaborative teams that have included strong leadership, engineers, technical staff, operations, maintenance staff, administrative staff, engineers, attorneys, directors, and trustees. I am a Woodlands Water employee. I'm not elected, I'm neutral. My background in this industry and working in multiple disciplines reflects my ability and my desire to work with the public and to support those in our community. I am the right person to represent the Woodlands MUDs, and I would be honored to do so. I ask for your support, your vote, and your recommendation to the trustee to entrust your trust in me to serve on this committee. And last but not least, and I've said it at every meeting and I'll continue to say it, I'm glad to be here, glad to be part of this team and to support the Woodlands Water team, Eric, directors, trustees, consultants in any way I can. So, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Do
Welcome.
you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, just refresh, I know it's in your bio, can you refresh your educational background?
Yeah, so I have a master's of public administration from Sam Houston State University with an emphasis in emergency management. My undergrad is from the University of Houston downtown in interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis in psychology. So, and then I have a couple of associate's degrees and an HR certificate. I did not go to school early on. I was later in life and I was encouraged to do that. Didn't have a background that was supportive of that, and was an engineer that I worked with, and said, "Kiddo, why don't you go to school?" And so I did it. I started going to school at 26, and when I had my daughter, and graduated with my master's when she was graduating from high school. So,
I love that.
That's awesome.
That is
That's
great.
fantastic.
Good for you.
So, been really blessed with opportunities and people that have been put along my path and my journey, for sure.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Woodlands Water family.
It's great meeting you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank MUD 39 for letting me come and take a little bit of your time to tell you about who I am and why I'm seeking this position. My resume's in the back in the package. Chemical engineer, Georgia Tech, professional engineer. When I was working 40 plus years in hydrocarbon processing industry, retired in 2021 from ExxonMobil as senior technical executive. So you might ask, well, why am I here and what do I want to do with the GRP? Well, I'm convinced that groundwater and surface water are the critical issues for Montgomery County when it looks at stability of the woodlands and the growth of the county. I became a MUD director back in 2022 and at the time didn't know anything about the GRP, and then started to hear more and more about surface water, subsidence, groundwater, the Lone Star Conservation District, and what was happening. And since 2022, when you look at it, the community invested millions of dollars into a plant that's operating at half capacity. The county is struggling to find water. We got Conroe getting ready to drill 4 new wells. Okay, we've got Montgomery saying they can't sponsor more growth because they don't have the water. And at the same time, the GRP is saying we can't produce any more surface water at a plant that's running half capacity. I understand there's a lot of constraints. I'm not familiar with all the details because I've not been on the board, but what I would claim to you is it's time for a change. The current leadership has been in a position a long time. They failed to address the problem. They continue to talk about, well, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this. It's time to drive change through the system, look at the system, do an analysis of the system, and then start making decisions that can be changed, things that can change to allow that plant to increase in capacity. I've worked in the private industry. I understand the pluses and minuses of trade-offs, compromises, thinking outside the box. And I just convinced that the current board, with its past leadership is supported by the WWA, is not willing to make the steps needed to change how we operate that plant. So happy to answer any questions. I'm passionate about this issue. Let me cover a couple topics that have come up with other MUDs. One is, well, Brad, you're MUD 7. How are you going to represent WWA? Well, I'm also a trustee. If I serve in this, it would be at the pleasure of the trustees, and I feel accountability to the trustees. I'd be happy to bring back regular updates to the trustees and to the MUDs. There's been a question asked about, well, you're an elected official. Well, there's other elected officials on the GRP board, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's not a requirement that you be a employee or even a director to be on the board. So it's not an issue if, in the future, if I'm not elected or I choose not to run again, I can still continue to serve. This is for completion of an existing 4-year term that I think expires in January 2027. Okay, so the trustees would be putting me in that position through the end of that term. And then in January 2027, they'd come back and make another recommendation for the next 4-year term. The other issues that's been raised is, well, Eric needs to know what's going on in GRP. And I certainly agree with that. Eric and I would be happy to work together. I can keep him informed. There was also a question raised about, well, Kim needs to, from a career development standpoint, she needs some exposure to GRP. And I would say I would be happy for her to shadow me. I'd be happy to, to work with her. I don't see my role as a filter or as a fence around GRP when it comes to WWA interactions. So I think the opportunity's there to go ahead and have me serve on the board as she comes up to speed in her job as a deputy director or deputy general manager for WWA. What else? I think that's most of the things I had.
Question for you. I'm sure you've read Eric's email about his recommendation for Kim, and in that he discussed his philosophies of Woodlands Water and the board. I'm just curious if you have any concerns about that, and if you have any issues with being able to work closely with Eric and the Woodlands Water representing on the board.
No, I don't have any concerns about working with Eric. I mean, I think we can work together fine. I think from a philosophy standpoint, one thing that we need to understand, this position is representing the trustees of WWA. It's not to represent the WWA employees, okay? It's representing the Woodlands community and our involvement with the surface water plant, okay? So I think having a trustee and elected official serve is a way to drive change through the system. If we continue down Eric's recommendation, I think you'll see very little change from what's happened in the past. I mean, if they were to change, why wouldn't Kim do anything different than Mike did? Okay, doesn't make any sense. They're both reporting to Eric. Okay, if you want change, you got to vote for me. Okay, so I ask your endorsement to direct your trustee to support me in the December trustee meeting.
Brad, I have a question.
Sure.
So I completely appreciate the kind of come in as an outside perspective, change, advocate for change. What if when you were to get elected and you come in there, you ask the hard questions, you peel back the covers of what's going on and what has gone on before, because you freely admitted, hey, you weren't part of those decisions, so you don't know all the ins and outs of it or the justifications of it. We've had conversations, we've heard feedback, we've heard the perspective from why the decisions are being made. What if asking those hard questions and making, being an advocate for change is ultimately, are you a pragmatist enough to then step back and say, got it, I wanted to be an advocate for change, I've asked the hard questions, but it turns out that current course is actually the right course. Are you willing to accept that? I just want to be clear that it's one thing to come in as an outsider, shake the snow globe and come in looking to be, an advocate for positive change. But what's that positive change ultimately turns out to be somewhat staying the course? Are you willing to say that in the best interest of all the MUDs and all the trustees that we're representing?
So let me answer that from a philosophical viewpoint.
Right.
I'm an engineer. Okay, I'm not a scientist.
Right.
Okay, I'm an engineer. I'm practical. I live in the real world. Okay, so I understand real world constraints. And the real world constraints say things can't change. You can't change them. Okay.
Right.
I think what you've got to do, you've got to push back the envelope and look at how you make change. Foundationally, we've created a huge problem because we built a plant that was based upon growth via government dictate. Okay, that government dictate has been removed. We have failed to win the hearts and souls of the community to help them understand the value of surface water. Okay, there's been way too much a lack of transparency and a lack of effort to educate the community and build the support that's needed to grow the capacity of the plant. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy. Okay. Or some people may have to pay a little bit more. Yeah, but at least let's get the information out there and let people decide. I'm tired of hearing the guy from Cut and Shoot stand up and say, I'm being robbed. I'm paying for this and I'm not getting any service water. Okay. Well, he doesn't understand the problem. Okay. We've got to deal with the community and get them engaged with subsidence is real. Okay. I know some of the community doesn't agree with that. I think with the right science background, you can drive that clear. Okay. And yes, it's a long-term problem. Okay. The final answer may be maybe the community doesn't want to pay the money and they want to live with subsidence. Okay. But I don't think we've done our best effort to convince them of what the options are and how to get there.
Okay.
Okay. But at the end of the day, the community says, I want the cheapest water and I'm willing to live with subsidence. They can pump all the groundwater they want. Okay. But there's consequences. And I don't feel like people understand those consequences.
Fair enough.
So, anything else? Okay, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate hearing back.
So as far as talking about this topic now, to then, assuming Keith is there at the next trustees meeting, that would be now. I mean, that's really the only opportunity.
Or
Okay.
direction to Keith on how to vote.
I mean,
Trustee meeting.
Is this a personnel matter that can be conducted in closed?
We talked about that, and I think at the trustee level, yes, but at the MUD level, no, because you're not actually making the appointment.
Okay.
I mean, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
My initial thought is, understand that Brad is an inactive, retired engineer, but at least he was an engineer. I know lots of engineers. It's very difficult to become an engineer, and you have to have a math and science background to become an engineer. So I think it's wonderful working up through the ranks, but I prefer to have an engineer at the end of the day.
I would definitely agree with that. I also would consider just on the activities and time required. Kim is new to her position. She's going to have her hands full acclimating to her new role here, and taking over. And Brad's retired with a lot of experience and is passionate, and he's knowledgeable on this. And I think that he would have more time to dedicate to the intricacies of the position.
Yeah, I think they're both great people. I think they both do a good job. But if I can have a retiree with tons of time and a technical background with engineering, that's kind of what wins me over. Anyone else?
As far as decisions that are made, on the board, does Brad or Kim act at the behest of the trustees, or once appointed, does Brad or Kim then make decisions or votes or without the trustees having inputs to that?
Yeah,
What's the oversight?
yeah, I think what needs to occur, and this is something that we've been looking at for some time,
Because it would be
as
different.
we knew the change was coming, is identifying something that not a single director has asked yet is what is Woodlands Water or the MUD's goals in this? We've heard what the candidates' goals are, but we haven't heard,
Right.
well, what is the MUD's goal for this? What do we want Brad or Kim to do on that advisory committee? And I think it's important that that gets documented and identified so that either one of them have clear direction on what the guidance is from the MUDs. I think that's important to document, whatever that is, so that we can assess success or not. You know,
So
going
to
forward.
discuss our beliefs on subsidence.
No, what do
In
we,
general.
what do we think the overall goal that we would want that individual to pursue as their position on that committee? Is it to maximize the utilization of that facility? Is it to drive down costs? Is it to find new users, new GRP members? Is it to raise the amount of flow through the plant? There's a lot of different things that can be captured, you know, within that need to be solved. As you've heard, there's plenty of issues that need to be solved. So what is it that is the driving force or the main topics that are most important to the Woodlands MUDs?
Yeah, and I agree with that, Eric. Wholesale, I'll turn the question back to you. Is like, was that ever discussed with kind of with the current gentleman before, you know,
Mike Moody.
Representative?
We had been having conversations as of late. I knew that he was going to be, since May, he was going to be leaving that position. And I said, when we put a new individual in there, I want to build that because it wasn't built previously.
Yeah. like business
So,
objective, you know,
yeah, a lot of
priorities.
whatever has been done prior to when I was there, that's one thing. But one of the things that we want to do going forward is look at these things because it's been a real problem for me on what the county is in the middle of right now in terms of our water problem. We've got no regulation regulating groundwater usage. We have, as mentioned, we've got a large asset there that's being underutilized. So how can we find solutions to maximize the utilization of that facility and thus drive down the groundwater withdrawals across the county, which in turn has subsidence benefits to it, obviously. And also aquifer improvements or aquifer benefits as well, because the aquifers, you know, as those regulations went away, the aquifers continued to start diving like they were prior to the regulation being in place. So those are the things that need to be tackled and solved. And as been mentioned, it's not going to be easy. There's legal issues. There's plenty. There's customer and community awareness for sure that needs to be had. So
Is it possible, I mean, certainly, making a request to have goals is one thing. Is it possible to have, like a check-in, maybe similar to how the trustees meet with, Arthur Bruderhoff, occasionally, where you come in and, you know, we ask you some questions and, you know, talk for 10 minutes or something like that, I think is, you know, because obviously if you hit one objective and meet it and move on, then there's a new set of objectives. But I mean, I think the community as a whole wants to get the best quality for the best money, and the best utilization of a plant, which they spent money and are spending money on paying for. So I think there's a fine line between full utilization and increased cost and cheapest possible without utilization, but also balancing, you know, people's homes and foundations, on subsidence. There's lots of conversations. I've been to Lone Star meetings where they've talked for 2 hours and nothing has been accomplished, arguing about where to put in meters. And I just couldn't sit there after 2 more hours. So I think there does need to be change, where, just to attempt change. Because I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I've not seen a lot of change on that topic. So, yeah. I mean, if either of you are elected, I would love for either of you to come into the trustees meeting, every other meeting, something like that, and report, similar to what Arthur does on your findings and your thoughts and, your goals.
We've already talked about the model that Arthur has with Region H. It's a good model to follow. Perfect. And I'm certainly aligned with that.
Awesome. Anyone else on their thoughts for the community?
Need to make a recommendation.
And then we make a recommendation and then we vote.
It's up to the board. I mean, a vote's not required. Each director can give your opinion to Keith on how you would like for him to vote, or you can take a formal vote, but there's not a requirement that you take one.
I mean, I'm fine voting. Do I need to make a motion to see if everyone's comfortable voting or just?
No. Make a motion, just make a motion to direct your trustee to nominate your preferred candidate.
Okay. Like to make, can I get a motion to everyone provide their input to our trustee on which way they would like to go on the candidate? Is that?
No, I think you need to.
You can make your recommendation. Everybody can make their comments and then I don't know if you even have to have a.
Sean, if you're nominated, if you're gonna say, I think Brad or Kim, make a motion that you nominate them for the position, and then we vote on that. And if there's
Okay.
contention, then.
Great. All right.
Have
I'd like
another motion.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Brad for the position to represent WWA for the GRP. And all in favor?
Somebody needs to second it.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Can I get a second?
I'll make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain? All right. Thank you. Number 13, receive attorney's report.
So general items under the attorney's report, I do need to cover item 14 with y'all though.
Go ahead.
All right. So consider an act on supplemental agreement with the River Authority and utility commitment in connection with the development of the defined area property located along 2978. Woodlands Land Development Company. We do have Dan Colhurst here with Howard Hughes / Woodlands Land Development Company to provide y'all with an updated land plan on the property. So we'll go ahead and do that, then we'll cover the supplemental.
Didn't say this was gonna change, fast and furious.
Yeah, and we're still working on it. So I'll give you an update. But most importantly, right now, we've got some, we have an opportunity right now. We have some cash available to us that wasn't gonna be spent this year. So we'd like to go ahead and lock up our water and sewer capacity with you guys.
Okay.
The slack capacity exists. That's been confirmed by the SJRA. We'll write you guys a check for, I think, $1.4 million this year. And that will buy about 420 single family equipment, development, 415. Thank you. If you look at the map I just put in front of you, you're gonna see that there's about 322 lots planned, with our current yield summary table up on the top right-hand corner. So the 415 should take us most of the way through the commercial area as well, but we don't exactly know what the commercial area is gonna be yet. So we have a better lock in on how many restaurants are actually gonna be there, how many big kitchens we're gonna have in that area. We can either say we've got enough already purchased, or we'll come back and have to make a supplemental purchase from you guys at a later date. But this will get all our residential stuff underway. We still need for activity to really start to happen out there. We want to know what's gonna happen on the commercial side. We don't think it's a good idea to put a bunch of commercial, 600 feet off of 2978 without them knowing what's gonna be happening on the commercial front. So once we come up with our decision on the commercial front, then we'll have something to sell and we'll sell it, and it'll be a pretty nice community. I mean, it's not small by any stretch of the imagination. We've done stuff like this for our entire careers, and we're very excited about what we're gonna be doing out here. There's a lot of talk about agri-hood, so we'll see what agri-hood.
Yeah, the,
I think it's.
The homes and garden thing that,
It's a community garden, but it's not run by the residents. It's run by the community association.
right,
And so, so you may have some fresh vegetables to your local restaurants and stuff like that. So we're pursuing those, that line of thought right now. But today's meeting is all about securing the slack capacity that SJRA has available, and that's what you guys are going to be discussing. And if you have any other questions, please give me a call. I'm here. Yes.
so, some of the questions that I've received from the public in the past were, the flow, in and out, right? So the flow, the water flow in to provide water for the community, is what y'all are paying for, right?
We're paying for capacity at the sewer plant, and we're paying for capacity in their water system.
Perfect. Again, I mean, that's why we do a master plan. So that way, if and when there is more need, we have capacity in the pipe coming to and from a patch of dirt that turns into a community. And that sewage would then flow to the nearest treatment plant, wherever that dirt may be at. So if this is part of 39, but is not directly connected to 39 geographically, so that sewage would go to whatever plant that it is connected or nearest to. Cool. I just want to make sure that, yeah, because I've received lots of questions on that.
Only 3 choices from the Woodlands.
That's correct.
Number 2.
That is correct.
so
Awesome.
going
Thank you.
ahead and making the purchase now or using the excess funds, does that accelerate anything or?
It gives us the most flexibility.
Right.
I don't, we've got a lot of irons in the fire with a lot of commercial folks working right now. So, one day they're jumping up and down that they've got some sale ready to be made, and we're gonna be moving forward on this project in the next 6 months. And then, I didn't quite work out like we thought it was, so. I'd like to be as ready as I can be. We've got money in next year's budget to go ahead and do the detention. I've already visited with you guys quite a bit about Charlie Riley.
Right.
And
Yeah, I
how
was
he's
gonna
be
ask that, the
involved.
community center.
I'll give you an update on that. Got a meeting about that tomorrow with the stakeholders at the county, trying to lock up the land swap side of it that we talked about. We're gonna dedicate some of our land to the county so they can have a more efficient community center. And they in turn will get some water and sewer capacity from us, and they will buy property for us to add detention to. In our previous conversations, because of the waters of the US rules that we have to deal with right now, we were gonna lose probably 4 or 5 acres of developable property, which reduces your AV, and of course, reduces my ability to put houses there or commercial property there. So the county had a need, and we have a mutually beneficial agreement in the works that will let us regain, they're gonna let us put the detention we need on their property. Okay, so we'll have shared detention with them, and it's the best, well, it happens in some places, and it's been happening here for 50 years. We have public-private partnerships, and we have public-public partnerships, so the MUD and the county will be engaged in this deal as well. So we're moving forward with that, the terms on that, and as soon as I have something locked up, I'll come see you guys again. But the amount of sewer and water capacity you get that they need is minimal, and we get about 4 or 5 more acres of developable land, which is good for your AV. Very good. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for the
All
update.
right.
You, sir.
All right, so supplemental agreement. We did one of these for a portion of the defined area back in December of 2022. I think you may have been on the board at the time,
I was for a few months.
but I think you were the only director who was. So that was for 300 connections. The price is the same. It was set in the 6th and final accounting, and it's the same for any districts going forward until that remainder of slack capacity in the River Authority system is fully utilized. and it's on a first come, first served basis. So there is incentive to be able to get that capacity for your project to make sure that it's there to facilitate the development. The 300 connections that were acquired in December 2022 are for this piece up here, for research. And now the development company is offering to pay for 415 of the ultimate number to be determined based on the final land plan and commercial usage. But they're ready to purchase 415 connections for the property off the back of 2978 that has 39 marked on it. So same form of supplemental agreement. The terms require that the funds be paid to the River Authority by the end of January of 25. We expect to get the funds from the river from the developer well before then.
Next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So the supplemental provides that it automatically terminates because the agreement is between the district and the River Authority to purchase the capacity. So, we always want to have an automatic termination provision in there. If for some reason the funds weren't received in time, the district's not on the hook to pay that money with funds that it doesn't have. So we have an automatic termination provision in there in the event the funds weren't received, but they will be. So we need authorization to have the general manager execute that supplemental agreement, and then to authorize the general manager to issue a utility commitment to the developer for that capacity, the 415 connections they put the funds up for, along with the 300 connections they put funds up for in 22. So that's the action.
Can I get that last piece? Is to execute the agreement and
To authorize the general manager to issue a utility commitment to the developer for those 715 connections in total that have been paid for by the developer.
I don't think he writes that fast.
The 300 are bundled up here in the aggregate number that's already up here. Because we're just amending in section 2, section sub 2, or whatever, the 415.
issued agreement.
415 is noted in paragraphs 1 and 2 in the middle of the
Section
corner
1.
page there.
Any questions?
Any reason not to do this? I mean,
No.
we're going.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point was to develop that area.
It's a great opportunity.
I think so.
All
We
right.
get to get.
Yeah. All right.
We have a
Well,
motion on the supplemental and the utility commitment.
I'd like to make a motion on the agreement and to authorize the GM to give the 715 connections to the developer on the agreement.
I'll second that motion.
And can I get, sorry, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Number 15, discuss the tie-in to District Ditch from the RV Park in Glen Eagles neighborhood.
Yeah, we took this off for the last few months, probably. We put it back on because there's been some movements. And it, if you recall, there was a RV park that was, some of y'all might not have heard about all of it. I think it started last year. We were made aware that there was an actual drainage tie-in into the 39 ditch.
Unauthorized, right?
Unauthorized. Yeah, we found it as we were running ditches, looking at stuff, and we found it. And so we put a halt to it. They also had some utilities that were built in the ditch in our property. We took a halt to that. They moved all those. They reconciled all that. And then we just put it on them to say, hey, you need to go get approvals from the developer. We have an easement, or Howard Hughes has easement on it. The TxDOT has some rights to the ditch because there's water from 242 that comes up into this facility. So we said, you need to go work all this out. And so that's kind of what they've been doing behind the scenes. And so TxDOT has basically said, okay, we don't have a problem with it, but we need a no objection letter from the MUD. And essentially I'll do that on your behalf. So I think we're ready to basically do that. Howard Hughes has said the same thing, as long as the MUD is okay. One of the stipulations that I would suggest to you that I'm gonna bring to you at another date is, and they've also modified what they originally did without authorization. They've modified, physically modified what they were gonna do. So to something that we would approve at this point. And so, which is more putting kind of their drainage into a pipe instead of, what they did is just cut a swale across the top of it. It was gonna float in. And so that's been altered and
Just raw, whatever.
yeah, just let it roll. And this is drain, this is storm.
It's rain and drainage.
So they've piped it and proposed that. We're okay with that, but it will be draining into the facility. As far as drainage goes in terms of capacity, doesn't have an issue. But it is a pipe that theoretically is not ours. It'll be there. We maintain that facility. And so there is a possibility that someday that could cause additional maintenance to the MUD. And so one of the things that I've done in the past in this situation is ask for some sort of maintenance fee type of thing. I don't want it to be reoccurring, so you kind of ask for it all up front with the idea that maybe that covers you for 20 years or whatever, which is generally enough that, for instance, if it failed in 20 years, that you would be made whole already to go fix it, because you don't know who's going to own that property later. You don't know who's going to be involved in that, whether or not you can get them to pay for anything ongoing. So I like to kind of put it up front. That way the MUD's made whole and you can take over the maintenance of the ditch as you already are, but with this included. And so we're working through kind of what that would look like in terms of cost. It's going to be something they probably aren't going to love,
Right.
Necessarily, but I think it makes you whole.
Yeah, because we'd be liable if like we were doing maintenance and we clipped their pipe and we broke it, right? They're gonna try to say it's our problem, right?
Well, technically they're encroaching.
That's what I want to be clear about. It gets a little,
Yeah.
but if we accept now, then we're kind of tacitly authorizing and,
The bigger concern I have than something like that is that the water coming off of their property, maybe they do something on their property that isn't in a maintenance, an error of maintenance that causes damage to the ditch itself, that undermines or silts in or something to the
introduces
ditch that now we have to deal with because of this tie-in. And so I want to essentially on the front end look at ways to try to be made whole on that. So we're looking at that from a monetary standpoint right now. And I'll have more recommendations for you in the future, but I just want to give you an update on where we are on that.
Couple of thoughts on that is before they developed this, that area, before they took out all the trees and developed it, I'm pretty sure from my years of walking it, that area just naturally flowed into the green belt by itself before they did that. Hopefully with them adding a pipe and controlling the flow, that, over the long term, it would have less erosion than what it would have had before they developed it. But I'm also curious, I don't remember exactly that before they plowed all that, have they done anything, or is there any concerns with the natural berm that was there between the green belt? Did they take any of that hiked off or anything like that?
So they're building, no, not of that. That's been restored, but behind it on their property, they've put in a kind of a swale that runs parallel on the backside that feeds what's called an e-inlet, which is the inlet that's on the north side of the property. From that junction or from that e-inlet, there's a pipe that goes into the ditch. So travels in the swale, gets to the e-inlet, goes down into a pipe and into your ditch.
So they've already started occupying it. There's already campers there. They're already putting it into the places being used now. They're renting out spaces, and it's a little bit curious to me because I have seen that whole area flood underwater significantly as recent as, earlier this year. It's filled up with water numerous times, but
Oh,
that's
it's in
on
the
them.
floodplain.
Huh?
It's in the floodplain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a.
My question is, whatever you bake in is, I mean, they look at this as a poison pill. What is their recourse if they literally say no? I mean, it's our facilities that they're trying to leverage.
They would have to
Can they-
develop
can they
a
sue?
retention pond themselves, right? They have to drain within themselves.
I think worst come to worst, we probably could do it, probably a cease and desist, I would think.
That's right. I just wanted to make sure there was.
Too much conversation about that open session.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure that I appreciate your advocating and looking for those, making sure we're not just thinking here, we're thinking one time. So awesome.
So do we have an action on this or?
No, just bringing you up to date. We had kind of taken it off for months because there was nothing going. I mean, there was things going on the developers front.
But it is currently draining into it's currently draining now.
All right.
Thank you for the update.
Number 16, receive and or act on the general manager's report.
Okay, just a couple other items wanted to update you on. Committee work group has scheduled their first meeting December 2nd. Sean is your representative on the CWG, so that will be and the invite's been sent to you like last week, December 2nd, 11:30 at the township. And so that's moving forward. Want to let you know, I attended the Tixwater Conservation Association conference a few weeks ago. That was in San Antonio. A pretty good conference. Wanted to update you on the, I talked earlier this year about developing a capital improvement / project plan for all of the assets of all the MUDs. And in particular, I was focused on the ditches, the condition of the ditches, ditch piping, siltation of the ditches, and then obviously water and sewer pipes as well that are WWA assets. We are going to start running the ditches. So the October mowings were complete by the mowing company. They have issued what we had asked them to do with this last mowing of the year, is to provide an assessment, essentially an assessment report. They've provided that. So what we're going to do now that we have the equipment, we're going to be starting to run the ditches next week. And we're going to start with some of the problem areas that they've already found and look at those, put our own eyes on it to start assessing the ditches, ditch piping, et cetera. There were definitely some significant issues in the 39 ditches throughout. And so we're going to put our own eyes on that, kind of do a severity assessment so that we can take that data for all of the MUDs in the woodlands and then build a CIP so that we can start planning whatever is needed to be done. We'll probably do a low, medium, high risk kind of assessment and then start to see what funds are available to do what by who. Likely, if we eventually, when those projects and those funds are contemplated, they'll be kind of part of the budget discussion next year. So I'd anticipate running the ditches, hopefully finishing that this year, and then collecting the data, building the CIP project plan, and then have that ready for budget discussion early summer. And then we'll just see where.
Can we have a copy of the assessment report that you received?
Sure.
Can you share that?
I'll send that out.
And I would say that after the improvements are made, we need to assess the damage that continues to happen by all the off-road and see if there's anything we can do about that. Because I think that they're causing a fair amount of damage and that costs our taxpayers. So it's a difficult one to battle because there's so many access points, but I live on it and I hear them daily running back and forth, and I know that they are causing damage.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. They one of the big access points is near the playground that my children play at. So yeah, it's not awesome when they zip by there. My children are playing and they drive on a four-wheeler. So
Okay.
love to discuss how that can be maybe a little bit more safe, or what we can actually do about that.
Well, some districts have, do we have signage up out there?
Yeah.
The
It doesn't stay
section
long.
motorized.
It doesn't stay long.
Okay.
We have it, and if it's up, in the neighborhood as known, the small park, it's the signs like off, like down the hill, just a touch. And it's a very small sign and they just breeze right by it. So,
Well, if we got posted signs, we need to put up more, certainly can. I mean, this comes up in time on a number of districts. And the report is if you got it posted, then if you have supplemental law enforcement through the township, call the sheriff and they can go out there and cite them. And sometimes they contact the district and ask if you want to press charges, and that's when the district says yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the first step is signs. We put them up, like you say, they tear them down and they go past them anyway. But what that does, like Brian said, is it gives law enforcement the ability to then do something. About
Yeah, it's not just waggle. It's
So-
I think we'd have to agree to maybe invest in some,
signage.
well, not just signage, but at least on a short term is some patrols or something, because if you hear somebody riding their motorcycles back there, it's not a 911 call.
Right.
And if you try to call the non-emergency, you're going to be on the phone for 30 minutes before anybody picks up. There's no response and it's not a priority. You're not going to get the police. And by the time that with the way they ride there, they're never going to catch them. They don't, the police themselves don't have access to it. Years ago, Woodlands Water basically went out and hired some off-duty police to kind of run and patrol back there. And the situation improved for a while, but, you know, of course, it went back to normal as soon as they stopped, but I mean, maybe make some examples out of some people for a little while and they get the hint.
Yeah.
well,
We'd have to pay for that though.
Yeah, something else I've seen work too is, of course, as you mentioned, there's law enforcement that's contracted for the Woodlands, right? There is. And what I've seen done, of course, you know, they run their patrols.
Right.
all over. And one of the things that I've heard them say numerous times is just tell us where you're having a little hot spot and we'll go patrol that more frequently. Cause they're kind of just generally, unless they've been given some direction that there's something to focus on,
Yeah.
they're just kind of doing their general
So how do we do that?
patrolling. But we can communicate that with them. Yeah, absolutely. And then they'll kind
Let's
of,
start with that.
maybe they'll just happen to be
Yeah.
over there a little bit more often is essentially what happens. Whether or not-
They're out there at the same time every day. It's usually like right after, you know, like 4 o'clock or so after work, they go out there, and maybe a little bit on weekends, but it's usually in the evenings after hours.
so one of the other things that concerns me a little bit, and, you know, I'm all for people getting exercise, but, you know, I'm worried about the liability that we have people maybe running in the green area. And I mean, I don't know if they trip and they sue us, they get bit by a snake or something like that. I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
something we should worry about or not.
Too much into liability, but I'll tell you, generally, districts have pretty broad protection for tort liability. There is a limitation under the Texas Tort Claims Act for your exposure, but I don't think we need to get
Got
too
it.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Mooney I've spoken with him about this, and he was very open and receptive and accepting of people to be able to use that area to walk and exercise, not to ride, you know, not to do damage, but just to be able to use that as walking. It's,
Okay.
you know, he kind of encouraged it, I think, and you know, a lot of people do use it for that. I do myself.
I used to do another
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready?
mountain bike and running.
Well, let's go on to number 17, receive Woodlands Water Trustees Report.
Just wanted to.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Give this,
Yes, sorry, John. I
No
apologize.
worries. I'll make it quick for you. Page 49 is your communication report. A couple things to note on infrastructure renewal. So we have the first round of the community working group happening on December 2nd. That's the advisory group for the renewal communications plan. Survey results are available for you on the Google Drive. So Holloway conducted that community survey, and we've got a high-level report and then the full umpteen page report if you really want to dive into all the responses and statistics. That is there on the Google Drive for you. And then within the next month, we expect that project cut sheets will be uploaded to the renewal website. So those are the one-pagers that go into detail on the individual projects. So the funding source, project description, timeline, and so forth. Get a lot more detail, a little more granular on the website here soon. I had a request last month to bring forward some website visitation statistics. So I've given you that there at the bottom of 49. That first column on the left, that was our historical average or previous 5-year average of monthly page views. Right? Not discrete visitors, but the number of total page views on the website. It's a good way to judge visitation. That came in at 22,000 plus on average per month. We then implemented the strategic plan beginning of 2023. And you can see in that middle column there, the average page views per month since implementation of the strategic plan has increased about 75%. And we're continuing to see that trend upwards. 2024 alone, we're 44,000 plus. And then you've got the top 25 months, they're ranked to the right. So the investment that the MUDs have put into communications these last couple of years, I think is really paying off. This is a good gauge how we're doing overall with our communications. It's not a sole determinant of how successful we're being. We do have other ways to measure it. But because we push so much to the website in our communication pieces, this is a pretty effective gauge. So encouraging numbers there. You've got some examples of current communication pieces here on the next page on 50. You should have this sitting on your kitchen table. This is a big piece that came out Friday. We will also be pushing that out through social media and email and so forth, make sure folks are seeing this. We've had a bit of response from the public on it so far. Folks are reading it and asking questions. That's what we want. And then we had another nice piece on renewal in Woodlands Community Magazine. You can see that on 52. And I think you actually have that full article at the end of your packet. The water bill right now is on renewal. And then this coming bill will be a double message. One, shut down your sprinkler system, save some water, protect the health of your lawn for the winter, and then winter sewer averaging as well, right? So that begins December, runs through the end of February. We're pushing a lot out on winter sewer averaging, reminding folks to conserve water through the winter. And then that determines their maximum sewer charge for the coming 12 months. So it's a great way to, again, save water now, save money all year long. And it's also the best thing you can do for your lawn and landscape is to cut down your water anymore. And finally, a couple things to note on the outreach calendar. We will be at the Sterling Ridge Village Association Fall Festival on Saturday, December 8th. And then we're going to start a regular appearance at the Grogan's Mill Farmers Market. Likely starting that on December 14th, just trying to get out in the community as much as possible. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. All right, that's 16, 17, receive Woodlands Water report, or Woodlands Water Trustee report. I went to the meeting and a couple of highlights. The Region H did not have a meeting this past meeting for them, but Region 6 with Ms. Diaz made a presentation to us about how to get some potential funding on water flood projects. And Eric was there and kind of guided some of the trustees on projects that might or might not be good ideas, some things that are already being worked on. Anyways, there's some dates coming up to be considered and to potentially get funding from that over the next couple of years to help out with flooding projects and things like that. We talked about potentially an all mud meeting in December to go ahead and talk about the water facility build out. So just wanted to kind of see y'all's thoughts there. So on top of our December meeting, potentially an all mud meeting where we would dive deeper into the water treatment plant You say all meet, you're referring to all 10 MUDs together in one point.
No, that's not exactly what it was. It was.
Apologies, I thought you
Yeah,
meant.
I had suggested if needed that there might be an opportunity to do the PowerPoint presentation, to do that at the MUD level.
Okay.
Yeah, in which there wouldn't be any discussion on it. It would just be presentation. So I gave the presentation this month to the MUDs. Obviously, not in as much detail, but you have a copy of it. So if we need to have one, we will, but it would only be to just basically see that same presentation.
Or we go watch
But you
the,
have a copy, or you
Yeah,
can
watch the
video,
feed.
so,
Yeah, I don't see a lot of value in that.
right. So,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure how you were
And we
going
have it now,
to
too.
get everyone into the SGRA building or tolerate that kind of crowd or hours of questions. So I think that's much more efficient.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Well, yeah, I was curious about that. And then we spent the majority of the time on discussing that presentation and how we would evaluate the comparison process that we have paperwork on, and who would do that for each MUD, and each MUD decide on how they wanted to move forward. We're going to work on that in our workshop, I believe, potentially. And then there was a piece, I apologize, I didn't quite understand this, with SGRA's judgment. Is that done now or pending?
Judgment?
For
Oh,
the
you're talking about the
with Quadvest?
litigation.
Oh,
Someone spoke on it, but I don't remember exactly the detail. I remember there was a judgment made, or it was done, but there's potential an appeal by Quadvest.
Yeah, I think what Ed said was that the River Authority was successful in the antitrust suit that was brought by Quadvest. There were others that were, as well as Quadvest. But that the time period to determine whether or not Quadvest would appeal that had not yet run. And so I think that's still to be determined.
Okay.
If I recall correctly.
I don't know the legal terms. It's not a full appeal, but they're requesting some change of language in the final judgment. Quadvest is, but
Ready. I mean, that's really it. Anything that I left out? So, cool. All right. Number 18, recess to closed session to consult district attorney pursuant to section 551.06. All right. Thank you, sir. Reconvene, not needed. And 20, discussing the matters of placement on the future agenda. I don't know how to word it, but I'm thinking the comparison worksheet for the workshop and instead of our
in lieu of the,
normal meeting.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was thinking if there's enough information to share or in the RV thing, I could possibly put that on if it's worthwhile. If not, then we'll just push it. I'll.
Okay. So we'd have those two topics.
Eventually, yeah. For sure, the workshop.
I'm fine with it too.
I think that sounds good.
Do we need to move on that or?
I've never added
No.
anything.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. It would. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And with that, we'll have adjournment at 10:23.